Hi, good morning, students. How are you?
Good morning, Professor. Everything it's fine. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you.
Morning, doctor. Everything fine, thank you. And you?
I'm also fine, very fine. Thank you. Okay. So let's start today's class. Do you have any questions from the previous classes? Okay. So let's start today's class. Today we are on the fourth session. Today we are going to learn about the probability distribution. Here we are going to learn very let me see what is Rene saying. Rene, please tell me.
Hi, doctor. I just want to know if you can explain us, uh, I mean, to exercise of the homework, because I had a lot of troubles. I already done, but I think I did in a different.
Sure. After this class, we will try to see if we can, if we find some time, we will do it, or else we will connect some other time and we will do it. Sure.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thanks.
Okay. You're welcome. Okay. So saying today's class is about probability distribution. In this, you have to understand lots of concepts. Most of them are very new to us. If you already know, so it will be a good exercise for you to follow us. If someone doesn't know, you have to pay more attention because we are going to learn something we already know, but in more mathematical format, so we can use it in the future classes. So this is one of the important classes, the probability distribution. So let's start with the definition, random variables. So what is a random variable? Can someone
Professor, are you presenting the PowerPoint? Because we cannot see it. I mean, just in the quick view.
Yeah, I'm sharing it. How many of you are not unable to see?
I am. Well, just in the quick view, in the small.
Okay. Mm,
I see the first slide that says random variables. That's all at the moment.
oh, I didn't understand. Is it? I'm showing just the random variable slide. It says random variables.
But I'm just seeing like on the quick view, not, I mean, in the, you are not like presenting, but just looking in the small view.
Tanya, if you see it in the small square, the little one, just click on it and it will change your screen.
Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
you're
Professor.
welcome.
Sorry.
Okay, very nice. Okay, so let us see what are the random variables. So can someone give me some view they have on random variables? Okay, so let us see what are the random variables. I'm going to share my screen. The random variable, let us assign random variable as x. So what does x means? X mean is um, so we know we do a lot of trials to conduct experiments and we get some results. For example, if we toss a coin, we get heads or tails. So if you throw a dice, we get one of the six sides So like that, we do a lot of experiments, and in those experiments, the results or the outcomes we have, we usually call them by the names like heads, tails, or sides of the face. But if you want to use more mathematical way of approaching it, what we're going to do is we want to assign numbers to all these outcomes, and we call them as the random variables. Because when you perform an experiment, the result you are getting is one of the random variables, one of the random results. So what is random variable X? Random variable X is a number assigned to your outcomes. For example, if you are tossing a coin in a coin tossing experiment, we can have two possible values. One is X is equal to 0 for X, and X is equals to 1. So in this way, we can say we are assigning some numbers like 0 and 1. There is no relation between 0 to heads and 1 to tails. We are assigning by ourselves. So we are saying 0 is heads, 1 is tails. Someone can say, why 0? Why can't we say like 570 is heads and X is equal to 1 is tails? Yeah, you can do that. You are not limited to use zeros, ones, or any other numbers, but we usually use the smallest possible numbers, which starts with 0, and as we have more outcomes, we keep assigning the new numbers 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. This is one way of assigning, and for the faces of the sides of a dice, we already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can use them. And if you want to have some kind of experiments where the outcomes, we say it is a, let's say one of the example problem was poor, average, and good. So you can say poor, average, and good can be like 0, 1, and 2. So we can assign some numbers to all these outcomes. So we call them the random variables. And random variables are two types: discrete and continuous. So what are the discrete type of random variables? Random variables which can take the values, let us say 0 or 1. In case of the coin tossing, you can say it is 0 or 1. You can't have any number in between. It is not possible. There are no outcomes between 0 and 1. You have 0 or you have 1. In the same way, if you throw a dice, the random variable can get one of the 6 results, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can't have anything in between. In the similar way, you can say, like, if you have a big bowl filled with a lot of marbles, and if you pull one of the marbles, so what is the color of the marble? If you say it is red or it is green, so if you assign red as 0 and green as 1, so you can say when you take a random marble out of the one bowl of marbles, it can be 0 or 1. You can't have in between. So it's not possible to have anything in between 0 and 1. And I'm using using the numbers 0 and 1 because those are the smallest numbers I can think of, but it can be any number. So if you have lots of, instead of 2 colors of marbles, you may have 10 colors of marbles. Let us say you have red, green, blue, lot of colors of marbles. When you take one of them, you assign each color with one number. So it can be anything ranging from 0 to 9. So, but we can't have in between. So discrete is something like it comes like packets. You get 0, 1, 2, you don't have anything in between. Okay, so what is continuous? Continuous is a random variable can get an outcome which is having infinite values. Why do I say infinite values? For example, if I ask if I select a random person in a classroom and ask what is that person's height, that person's height can be any value. Any value, I don't mean that any value like 1,000 kilometers. He can't be 1,000 kilometers. Let us say he is in between 5 feet and 6 feet. But exact height is not finite. It can be infinite because it can be like, for example, if we consider the metric units, let's say he is in between 150 and 170. So what is the height of that person? We can say it is 157.92176474. We can keep saying that. We can't just stop at any moment because there is possibility that there are infinite values. So if I say there is one person of height 1.5 and there is another person of height 1.55. So is there any other person between these two persons? There will be like infinite number of persons. It is possible. Because how many numbers are there between 1 and 2? There are infinite numbers. So you take any two numbers, how many numbers we have in between these two numbers? We have infinite numbers. So the random variables which are continuous can receive an outcome which is infinite. So we have to understand here the discrete takes certain predetermined number of outcomes, but in continuous the answer can be, or the outcomes can be of infinite numbers, and maybe it's in the range. Let us say if we are talking about a human height, we know it starts from 0. Let us say like the 0 is not possible, but let us say the height can be, the lower limit is 0, the upper limit is, let us say, like 1 kilometer. So we know all humans are in between these two range, in these 2 points, 0 to 1 kilometer. So what is the normally we observe? The humans are around 150, 160, 170, but exact height is continuous. We can't exactly say today Suresh's height is 176 point, I don't know how much. So it continuously changes. Okay. So why I'm talking a lot about this is because in the future of slides, we're going to see the way we approach changes, if it is discrete or if it is continuous. Okay. So let us see the expected value. Before seeing the expected value, let us understand how we can use the random variables in association with the probability. How we can use the mathematical way of representing. So we know that in a coin tossing experiment, x is 0 for heads and x is equals to 1 in for tails. So if I want to know what is the probability of getting heads, so what am I going to say is probability of x equals to 0. This is the notation. Mathematically we use this notation. So we say probability of x is equals to 0. What this means, x equals to 0, we know x equals to 0 is heads. So what am I saying here is the so I think P represents probability of what? X is what? The random variable x is equals to 0. So what is the probability that x is equals to 0? Is in normal human terms we can say it's the probability of falling heads. So in the same way we can say the probability of x equals to 1 represents the probability of falling heads. So let us see another example. If you have 5 red balls and 10 green balls in a bowl. If you randomly select one red ball, if you randomly select one ball, what is the probability that it is red? If you have 5 red balls and 10 green balls in a bowl, if you randomly select one ball, what is the probability that it is red? So how can we start doing these problems mathematically? So what we can say assign is red and green are something we don't use. So we use red ball is, say, x is equals to 0 is red. X equals to 1 is the green. So probability of x equals to 0 is what he's asking. He's asking what is the probability that it is red. So probability that x is equals to 0. So here you can solve by already you know how to solve this. So in this case, let us say it is 5 divided by 15, right? So 5 divided by 15, it is 1/3. You can select this. Okay. Now there is also another way of representing, or we can use that another way. What is it? So let us say you have in a classroom, here I'm not going to solve this. I'm just want to show mathematically how do we represent. In a classroom, you measure all the heights. What does it mean is heights of all the students in a classroom. So I am asking a question. What is the probability that a randomly selected person's height is less than 6 feet? So how do we do this? First we assign that x is height of the student. If you say x is height of the student, so x is the random variable. So the question is, it's not specific, it's not asking a point, it's asking a range. So what is it asking? It's asking what is probability of x being less than 6? That's a question. So this is what we want to find out. I'm showing here how do we do the mathematical representation. The mathematical representation is probability of x less than 6. So we can say x equals to some number, x less than some number, or x less than something and greater than something. So I mean, we can give a range, for example. So let us say so what does this represent? It shows, gives the probability of a randomly selected person is having a height in between 5 feet and 6 feet. If you randomly select one person, his height in between 5 and 6, what is the probability is? We represent this way. So how do you calculate? When you have data, you already know how to calculate, but this is a representation, right? Okay. So now let us go to the expected value. Expected value, or we can call it the average, or we can call it the mean. All are the same for at least for today's class. So what is expected value is the mean. So we already calculated this in previous examples, but there we did some small mistakes in calculating the variance and standard deviation. Today we'll explain you how to do that, and we'll do it. So for expected value, we'll calculate what is an expected value. So let us take an example. So let us calculate expected value. Let us take a frequency table. Let's say let me generate some data. I will generate data of 1,000 numbers. Let me group them. The maximum and minimum are between 12 and 70. So let's say let's start from 10 to 20. Let us say it is 74. So it's lower limit, upper limit, and we say x. X is the middle one. The middle of these two is average of this. We know it is 15. So we have this. And then now let us calculate the frequency. The frequency is, we have to use the formula. This is a cumulative frequency, and the frequency is This is the frequency. So we know the probability is the relative frequency. The relative frequency gives us the probability. So what is the relative frequency here? RF, the relative frequency, we take it as this number divided by the total. We know the total is 1000, so we divide it by 1000. So we get this. This is the relative frequency. So here we have X and we have F, relative frequency. So what is the expected value? The formula of expected value says you have to multiply X and our relative frequency, and we have to add them, right? So X times relative frequency is equals to we have this, and then we add it. So the average value is 40.58. We can say this is the sum of this, which is actually the mean. Let me write here. The mean is equals to expected value the result is this. Okay. So we can calculate our average value or expected value in that way. So next we calculate the variance. What is the variance? So we already used this from our previous classes. So let me show you the slide from the previous. We were seeing this in the session 1, right? So if we see the mean, we just calculated the mean, median, mode, data measures. Okay, it's not in the first class, then it's a second session. We just did this part now. And now let us see the median measure. We want the variance. Yeah, here is the variance. Here what we were missing or last time is this Fi time. We didn't multiply with this. So now we'll do it. So one way of doing is to do that, multiplying the frequency, or in the probability terms, the frequency divided by n is already giving the relative frequency. So we can just use the relative frequency instead of multiplying with frequency and then dividing with the total n. So here, what is the n? We know n is the total number of samples. Here in this case, the total is, we know it is 1000. Okay. So for variance, what do we need to do? We have to subtract x from the expected value. What's the expected value here? It is 40.58, and we have to subtract all this x, and then we have to multiply with itself. Means we have to do x minus mean square, and then we have to multiply with the relative frequency. So first I'm going to calculate here x minus mean. So what is x here? We have this x, and we subtract with the mean. What is mean? We know the mean is this value. So I will do this. So in the next column, I'm going to do square it. I'm going to square this. So how do I square? I multiply with itself. So it gives me the square. In Excel, you can't just use this word. We have a formula called power. We can use the power. For example, if you don't want to multiply with itself, you want to use the power, you can use the power function, and you have to use this, and you have to say this number to the power of 2, which also gives the same number. And then we have to multiply the whole term with the relative frequency. So we multiply with the relative frequency. Relative frequency times. So we multiply relative frequency times this number. And what is the sum? Let me put it bold. So we know it is sum. So you see the sum is 285. So what is this? This is the variance. So what's the variance? Which is equals to this value. So this is from the group data. So let us see, let's validate this information is right or wrong from the real data using the Excel formula. So let us see mean, or we can average of all these numbers is very close. Since we are using the group data, we kind of try to miss some information. Okay, now let us calculate the variance. Variance, they have two. One is for the population, another is a sample. So we go to the formula and see what we are using is for the population. The population is divided by n. So we are dividing it by n. So we use the population. I think I received a message. Let me see. Okay, Rene, please ask your question.
Sure. Is it matters if its variation is a little, or it doesn't matter? The values.
I didn't understand. Please repeat again, please.
Yeah, is it matters if the values of mean, expected value on variance matters that the formula of Excel is different?
I'm not quite clear. Let me explain what I understand. If it is wrong, please correct me. So you're saying, is there any problem if we have a less variance or a more variance? Is that your question?
No, I just want to know if it's a problem if our values of mean expected value that we already taken in the chart, it's different between the Excel formula. For example, the mean expected value you have 40.58, and the Excel formula it's 41.188.
Yeah.
Is it a problem if we have like a little variation?
Okay. No, actually, it's not a problem. You know why? The problem, I mean, I understand your question now. So you're saying this is value we are obtaining, and this is the one obtained by the Excel. So why are we getting the difference? So the main difference, or why we have these different values, is because we are grouping the data. So we already know when we group the data, we are kind of missing some information. So for example, here it says 10 and 20. We don't know what is in between 10 and 20. So it can be the numbers who are 11, 12, 13, all are goes in between 10 and 20. So we are missing some information. The missing information accounts to this error. So we already discussed this. So why do we do that? Because we can't take this big chunk of data everywhere. So all we can take is this small group and we work on this. For let us say, for example, you did this and you found there is a difference. So let us see what's the difference. So the difference is 0.6. And let us say for some reason you don't like this error, or you think this is very big. So how can you work on this? So you can't just take the whole data and compute all the times. So what you can do is this upper limit and lower limit, you can make it smaller. So how smaller you can go? So we have Excel to help us. So let me go much smaller, like 2. So L and U. instead of using these big numbers, let me use little small interval. So from 10 to, instead of 20, I'll go to 12. So here it starts with so what am I doing is making the numbers much closer. So here we have more information than before. So here the table is little longer, but we expect to be more accurate, right? So let's use all the remaining formulas the same. So let me copy the first part, so it will be the same. Okay. So what am I doing now? I'm making the group with data, but very small chunks. So what is the average value I'm getting? This is from average expected value. Let us say this one, small table, big table, or we can say the mostly used term is the raw data, right? Okay. The small table, we got this. In the big table, what's the average? We get sum of all this. Sum of all the x times relative frequency, which is this one. Okay, sorry. Is sum of no, I did a mistake. Okay, I did a mistake in this calculation of the frequency. Let me correct the frequency part. So if you see, now the value is little closer than before. The error is little reduced. Let me calculate this. So the calculated value is little more accurate than before. And here you see the variance is also getting very close to the raw data. So when you have a bigger data or bigger table, so you can get more accurate results. Is it clear, Rene?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. So we calculated the mean and the variance. So now if you see, I'm using the relative frequency. I'm not using the frequency anymore. I'm using this relative frequency. And we already know what is relative frequency. Relative frequency is the probability. So what am I saying here? 10 to 20. So the data is this data ranging from 12 to, or you can say 10 to 70. The whole data is between 10 to 70. So this first term says the data elements whose numbers are in between 10 and 20. How many does we have? Or if we randomly select one of them, what's the probability that that number you selected is in between 10 and 20? The probability is given by the relative frequency, which is 0.159. So we are using the relative frequency, or we can say the probability of x. So relative frequency, or we can say probability of x. What x am I talking? x is in between lower bound and upper bound, right? So x such a way that, let me write in another page. So what am I doing there is the relative frequency. In this case, what we are doing, relative frequency I want to represent with FR, represents, what is it represents? P, it what the lower bound is it's less, yeah, lower bound is less than x, less than upper. So this is a mathematical way I can represent it. So the value of x is in between lower bound and the upper bound. Actually, it's less than or equals to the lower bound, because when we have number 10, it goes to this one, right? When it is number 20, it goes to this. So when it is less than 10 or equals to 10 until 20, we put it in this. And the relative frequency represents the probability of that class, or the number belonging to that range. Okay. So in this, what we are understanding is the variance calculating through the probability. No more from, we don't use the group data type of thinking. We use, if we already know the probability, we can find the variance, right? Okay. Now the standard deviation. The standard deviation is very simple for us. All we have to do is we have to do square root of the variance. If variance is this, the standard deviation is equals to square root of this number. Let's calculate for the raw data what is standard deviation. Standard deviation formula, and these are the numbers. If you see the value, let me put little big this all the information. Okay. For the small table, the standard deviation is 16.90, or you can say 16.91, and for the big table it is 16.95. The correct value, or the more accurate value, is 16.96. So we can say the big table is getting much closer to the reality than the smaller table, right? And how do we calculate it? We calculate it through the variance, or we just do square root of the variance. So what are the symbols we use? The expected value, or the mean. For the mean is equals to expected value. In our case, we use the symbol expected of x, or we can say mu, or we also use the x bar, right? So we can use any of these. Here I'm changing the capital and smaller, I mean capital and lowercase x interchangeably, but future videos, in the future sessions, we try to make them distinct and we give some special names for each of them. For now, let us say x we can use interchangeably, and mu is also the expected value. And how do we represent the variance? The variance we represent using sigma square. And standard deviation, we already know it is is just the sigma. We take positive part of the square rooting this variance, right? Okay. There are no questions, so let's go to the next slide. Here is the important thing coming. So we have to understand the probability distribution functions. So what are the probability distribution functions? So we can say there are kind of three different probability distribution functions, but actually for any given distribution, or we have only two. One is one among these two things. I will explain what I mean. So these three are we going to learn. So for any given distribution, only two of them will apply. Why do I say that? Because the probability mass function is for the discrete and probability density function is for the continuous random variables. So if you have discrete variables, we go to the probability mass function. So we can't go to the probability density function. So if you have continuous variable, continuous random variable, so we go with the probability density function, right? And the cumulative distribution function is also there is a little change, but the term is the same. So we'll understand what it shows. There is a very small difference, but it's the same. By the definition of cumulative distribution, we understand that there is no big difference if it is continuous or if it is discrete. So let us go one after another and we try to find out what does it say. So let's start with probability mass function. So what is probability mass function is? So we already saw this. We have to define it officially, but we already saw this probability mass function. What is probability mass function is? So if you have this distribution, right? Here we have X and we have the relative frequency. So these two represent the relative frequency represents the probability of each X, and this is the mass. Okay, I will explain with another example. Let us go try to collect some data from internet and let's apply that. We once collected the IMBD rating for Squid Games. Let us see if we have any other IMBD ratings. Let's see a data set of IMBD. Here we have this. these are the ratings. Last time we also had to do some changes because so you have to take the, let me see, what did we take, the day or the month, because it shows in a format like 10 out of 10. It takes like day 10 and month 10, or for example if you say 9-10, it says let us see what it takes, day and month, or how does it takes. It says 9th day and month. So we have to do some pre-processing to the data. So let's just take the date of this. Okay. Day of this. So we got 10, and the first rating is 10, the second rating is 9. So we have, these are the ratings of the Squid Games, right? So how much data we have? We have 1,185. Let's put it in a table. If we put it in a table, let us say the rating. The rating is the random variable here. So rating is the X. So what are the values? What are the possible outcomes? Starts from 1 until 10, right? So let us see, count if many people in this range say that they give 1. Perfect. So we have this, and this is the frequency. And what is the probability, or what is the relative frequency, is divided by the total. The total is sum of all these things, which is this number. We said the relative frequency gives the probability. What does it give? Probability of X equals to X. So I use the capital X as the random variable, and small x represents one of each this. Or let us say, instead of X, I'll put I so that we don't get confused. So I is 1, 2, 3, 4, depends on which iteration we are. So what is the probability? Which is same as this one. If you randomly select one of the ratings, what is the probability that it is 9? The probability is it is 0.20, or we can say 20%. So 24% of the times you get 9. So what's the probability you get 8 is 0.86. So this we call the probability mass function. So what does it mean? Each of the ratings is having a mass. So 1 is having this much weight. 3 is having this much mass. The 10 is heaviest, which is this one, right? So what does the probability mass function says? Probability mass function is, in this case, it is this one. The probability mass function, or we can say F is this step. So how do we represent this mathematically? Let us say if we have here we have a lot of options, like 10 options. Let us say if we have only 2 options, how can we represent is, we can just write function equals to let me use this way of writing. So let me, if we want to say the function of x is equals to let's say both are having 50-50% chances. So it's the probability is 0.5. 0.5. One is 0.5 when the value of x is in between, when x is equals to 0. For x is equals to 0. This one for x is equals to 1. This is a mathematical way of representing a function with different results based on the inputs. So f of x takes the value of 0.5 when x is equals to 0. F of x takes the value of 0.5 when it is x equals to 1. This can be the example of flipping a coin. If we say 0 is heads, 1 is tails. So when you flip, what is the probability of it is heads is 0.5. What is the probability that it's tails is also 0.5. So probability mass function gives us this information. So now let us see what is cumulative distribution function. So cumulative distribution function is, the question we are asking in cumulative distribution function is, what is the probability until this number and all the below this? What does it mean? So for example, if I say, what is the probability that I get a rating of 5 or less? So what is the probability that I get a rating 5 or less is, I add all the probabilities 5 and all before that, right? So we call it the cumulative frequency, or cumulative relative frequency. Or in the case of probability, the term we use is cumulative distribution function. So cumulative distribution function, the same as the cumulative frequency we saw the last time, but instead of applying to the frequency, we apply to the relative frequency. So what happens now? Here for the first one is the same. For the second one, it is this one plus the previous one, right? So we do this. So we see, so what's the probability that you select any random rating and it is 5 or less? And the probability is 0.197 or 19.7. 19.7% of the times you get a rating which is 5 or less than 5, right? Okay. So similarly, if I ask a question, what is the probability that you get a rating of 8 or less than 8? So you can just see here 0.58. So it is 58% of the times you get a rating which is 8 or less than 8. So we already know all these concepts from the before, but what we are trying to do now is we are putting these concepts in terms of probability. Why are we doing this? Because this will be useful in the next coming classes to understand the big picture of how do we do sampling and how do we get some decision making analysis through this. So we're trying to understand the mathematical way of approaching the probability, right? So we already know frequency, but now what we're going to use is probability mass function. Probability mass function. Probability mass function is same as the relative frequency. And we know the total frequency, sum of all the frequency is the total samples. And the relative frequency we are dividing with the total sum. So when we add the relative frequency, we get 1. In the same way, if we add all the probability mass function, we have to get sum is equals to 1, right? So here we see, add all this, we get sum is equals to 1. In the same way, the cumulative distribution function, what does it says? For example, 9 means all the ratings 9 and below. So if you say 10, it means all the ratings 10 and below. So it means we are selecting the whole population. So here it should be always 1. At the end, it should be 1. So this value starts with from 0 and reaches to 1. It happens for all the data sets. And this probability mass function, for everything, the sum should be equals to 1. So one of this is missing. For let's say for some reason you don't know this information. So for some reason you don't know this. you can calculate this. You know how? So let's do sum of all this. Sum of all this. So the sum of all this is 0.96962. So from this we know it is not equals to 1. So to become equals to 1, we say 1 minus this. So it is 0.0303. So this is the probability of rating 4. What are we doing? Yeah. See? We got this answer. So in this way, we can perform lot of calculations, and you can understand them, right? Okay. This is very important to understand what is probability mass function and probability distribution function. So probability mass function answers the question if you ask for a one point. Let's say, what is the probability that a randomly selected person is having a rating? Sorry, I mean a randomly person or randomly selected rating is equals to 8. It is answered through the probability mass function. So you can say it's represents the mass of this. And cumulative distribution function gives the information like what is the probability of getting a rating 5 and below it. So we can get from this, right? So let us understand the concepts of distributions. So what does the distribution means? So if we plot these two, so the ratings and relative frequency, because relative frequency is the probability mass function for us. So let's plot this and this probability mass function. Let us see how it looks. So we plot through scatter. Through scatter. Select this. So this diagram, we call it the distribution. So you see how the probability is around this for different values. For this, instead of plotting like this, I mean, instead of plotting with a line in between, it makes no sense drawing a line between these two because these two are not connected anyway. So what we're going to do is we plot a bar chart, kind of histogram. Let us see if we have that in Excel. I know it is there. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. Yeah. So what am I seeing here is the rating 1 is given by this much population and this percentage of, this is a probability mass function. So here you can see this is reducing and increasing. So what am I going to do in uniform distribution? So from this moment, we're going to see different types of distributions. The objective is not to understand in depth of the distribution. The objective is to get familiarized with how can we use distribution or different ways you can see the data. I mean, different distributions available. The whole objective is not to understand in depth of all the distributions. So we go a little bit in depth for the last one, which we're going to see. But for remaining all of other distributions, we just try to understand what it says and how the graph looks. And I don't have to make a lot of sense out of it. We try to understand different things. So the main objective is to understand there exist predetermined distributions and we use them. So that's the main concept. So when you say uniform distribution, so this one is definitely not a uniform distribution. So this is not the one we are going to talk. So uniform distribution is if it is rating 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, all should have the same one, the same mass. All have the same mass. it is possible in one of this example, maybe, I'm not sure. In this, it is possible. Let's plot between x and the relative frequency. We already know relative frequency is probability mass function. And here is the x. So let us plot these two and see how it looks. I expect it to be more uniform than the ratings because we generated some kind of random numbers in Excel, and the random numbers in Excel are called uniform distribution. It uses uniform distribution. So let us see these values. So let us. So it's kind of uniform, not very much, but here it reduced and increased. It's not uniform. But let us go and use this big table, the bigger one. Let us plot this and see how it looks. Again, let's go to the bar chart. This. It is kind of looks a little similar to uniform, but it's not uniform because it is increasing and decreasing, increasing and decreasing. When it is uniform distribution, all have the same values. It's perfectly uniform, right? It is not perfectly uniform for a lot of reasons. One of them is we are not generating enough data, like we are just generating 1,000. If we generate like 10,000 or 1 million data points, maybe then it will be more uniform. So anyway, so the concept here is this probability mass function is little uniform, but it's not exactly uniform. When it is uniform, we will see like a straight line. So for this reason, we can do it manually. Let's generate our own data, which is uniformly distributed data. Uniform distribution. So let's say just say uniform because we are talking about the distributions. So let us say some x values. Let us say from 5 to 5. Let's see the way of we are doing. We take the simple values and we add 1. Let us take some things. So when you want to generate uniform distributed, there are other ways. Mathematically, you can go a little complex and you can understand what you can do. But I recommend you to do something very simple. So let us, already the frequency is the one which can be converted into relative frequency. If the frequency is the same, automatically the relative frequency will be the same. So what you can do is you just put any number, any random number for the frequency. Let us say, let's put 8. So let's put 8 and copy until down. What am I doing? The frequency is the constant, right? So what will be the relative frequency? This is something important. The relative frequency is equals to this frequency divided by sum of all the frequencies or the total size. Say 0.11. See, this number will not change for any value you put. You can put any number, like let us say 55. It will be the same. So there is a way of calculating this number without using this 55 in the middle, but we are not going into that part because our objective is to see this one and probability mass function. Probability mass function. So we plot this. No, not this. Here it shows probability mass function is uniformly distributed. So for all it is 0.111. So why do we have 0.111? Because we have how many here? We are having 9 and all have the same probability and we know sum is equals to 1. So if you mathematically solve, you get 0.11. So how do you generate? you can generate in this fashion. It's easier, right? So this is uniform distribution. So what do we understand from uniform? We just want to see the graph. We don't want to get more into the mathematical part. We just want to observe different ways of different graphs. We try to analyze, we try to understand stuff, but we don't want to go more in detail. Okay. The next distribution is binomial distribution. So the binomial distribution is usually used when you have some questions, like, for example, if I ask you a question like, so again, let's say that you have a bowl with red color balls and green color balls, and you take like 3 times, you select a ball randomly from the bowl. So first time you select, you get some color. Second time you select, you get another color. Third time you select, you get another color. Let us say you sampled 3 times, or you selected 3 times, you collected it. And after you see the result, you put the ball back inside the bowl. So my question is, how many times did you get the red balls? Or what the question is, what is the probability that you get red balls all the 3 times you selected it? What's the probability? So it is probable that every time you get the red ball. So this question is answered through binomial distribution. And another way of this one is, for example, if you have coin flipping, let's say you are flipping 5 times. You flip coin for 5 times. And my question is, what is the probability that you get all the 5 times the heads? So if you flip 5 times and all the 5 times the coin is showing heads, what's the probability? It is probable that it shows 5 at all the times, but how much is the probability? So these questions are answered through the binomial distribution. So to generate this, so let's use the Excel's inbuilt functionality. So for this, what I do is I put X here, I put a little gap, I put X here, probability mask function. So first let me see what else the distribution says. So the distribution is binomial, right? Binomial distribution. We have binomial distribution here. So let us see binomial distribution. It is asking 3 questions. We have to add these 3. So S, trail probability, and this. So this is something we want to know. What is S? What is this? For this, you can just click here. It will give some help. From this help, you can understand what are we talking about. But anyway, if you little bit dig into it, what is binomial distribution? We already know. We need 2 information. One is that you have a bowl and how many times you are collecting. For example, you are sampling like 3 times. You are taking 3 times. Or if you have a coin, how many times are you flipping? You are flipping 3 times or 4 times. So let us say go with the example of coin flipping. So if you have a coin flipping, so what is the probability that you have 0 or 1? Is 50-50 chances. Okay. So how many times you flip? If let us say you flipped 4 times. So what questions can I ask? All the questions I'm going to list here in the X. So these are the possible outcomes, right? So the first one is 0. 0 means let us say how many times the head is head is shown. The head is shown 0 times, once, twice, thrice. It shows until 4, 5. If you are flipping 5 times, you will have 6 data here. 5 plus 1, 1 is when nothing is 1, when it's 0. So these are all the possible outcomes, right? 0 to 5. So let us say what are the number of trails. So how many times are you conducting the experiments? We call it number of trails, right? So let me take this to here. So number of trails we are conducting is 5. And then the another information we need is every time you conduct a trail, for example, if you are flipping a coin, the probability of heads or probability of falling tails is 50-50. But there are other chances. For example, if you are having a bowl with red balls and green balls, let us say there are 5 red balls and 10 green balls, then the probability of getting a red ball is, we saw it, 0.3%. It is not 0.5%, right? So we also want to know this information, like probability of, we call it probability of success. What's the probability of success? Let us say 0.5 in case of coin flipping. So now we have the data, so we can start constructing the binomial theorem. Sorry, I used binomial theorem because it's a mistake. It's a binomial distribution. Okay, so in binomial distribution, we have this equals to, let us see, binomial distribution. Okay, in binomial distribution, the number S says how many trials you have conducted. I conducted 5 trials. Okay, so the trial S is which trial are you conducting? It's trial 0. And then how many trials in total, which is 5. The probability of success is 0.5. And the final one says, what do you want, the cumulative distribution or the probability mass function? So if you want probability cumulative distribution function, you say true. If you want probability mass function, we say false. For now, we say false. So here, for certain data, we have to lock the. For example, I have to lock this. I have to lock this. Let me call. So this is a probability mass function. If you plot these two, this shows me a graph like this. So in 5 trials, so if you flip your coin 5 times, the probability of getting heads 2 times is 0.3. The probability of getting heads 3 times is also 0.3. So from this, I can get this information. This is probability mass function. And also we can say cumulative distribution function, which is, we saw this, it's the same function in Excel. We use the same function. But instead of saying false, we have to say true. We know the cumulative distribution function starts from 0, ends at 1. Here it makes more sense if you draw a line, but I prefer drawing a continuous line instead of a discrete blocks. That makes more sense to me, because you can feel like if you want 3 or less, so from 3 or less is how much? It's 0.8. So if you flip a coin 5 times, what's the probability that you get heads 3 times or less is 0.8. What's the probability that you get 4 times or less is very close to 1. What's the probability you get 5 times or less is all the cases, right? It's 1. So this is the binomial distribution. Okay. Here, if you are little into mathematics, you can understand it's very easy to calculate this, because it's the same as like the probability. If you draw the branches, the tree diagram, you can understand certain tree diagrams you can add together. And it's a combination problem, and this distribution comes very easily. I mean, it's you can compute this. It's not, I don't need an Excel to do this. Okay, and also there is a triangle called Pascal triangle. If you know how to construct the Pascal triangle, from there also you can get, it's for the people who are a little enthusiastic, right? So you can go into dig a little deeper into the Pascal triangle and see and also use the term binomial theorem, because in the binomial theorem they also use something very similar. You can use that technique here. So what do I am saying is, for example, if you have this, so here you have 6, right? So if you go to Pascal triangle, I'm giving some information now which is not really important. If you want, if you're enthusiastic, you can understand. Pascal triangle. If you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We use this one. It says 1, 5, 10, 10, 5, 1. So we can use this here. I mean 1, 5, 10, 10, 5, 1. We can call this is a frequency. So what is the relative frequency? We know the relative frequency is this number divided by sum of the discoupling. So if you see, this gives the relative, this is the frequency, this is the relative frequency. So if you take the frequency from this Pascal triangle, you can easily get the relative frequency, or which is equals to the probability mass function, right? Okay. So this is about the binomial distribution. So the important takeaway for you is this is another way of how the probability is distributed, and we have to understand the sum is 1 and the cumulative frequency starts from 0 and goes to 1. This is the information, and we want to see another one, and we don't have to understand a little very deep into it. All we have to understand is we have to see this sum is getting equals to 1 and the cumulative distribution function starts with 0 and 1, and how the distribution looks, and it kind of makes little sense to a lot of things, right? Okay. This is an example I thought of doing, so we can do it a little quick. A coin is tossed 10 times. What is the probability of getting exactly 3 heads? So we can use the same. So we are tossing 10 times. And so here, from instead of 0 to 5, what's the probability? I mean, what are the other possibilities? So you can go until 10, right? It is until 10. But I also can put 11 and 12. So we know 11 and 12 doesn't have. So the probability will give 0. It should give 0. I can fill it. Let us see what happens. So it doesn't have, the Excel can't compute for this because it's not available. So it's a numerical error. So let's delete this. So the question says, it asks us, the probability of getting exactly 3 heads. What's the probability that getting exactly 3 heads is this one. We are asking about probability mass function, which is 11.7%. So if you do conduct a lot of trials of flipping coins 10 times, for 11.7 times, you get exactly 3 heads, right? Okay. Now let's go to another distribution called Poisson's. I don't know how to pronounce correctly. Poisson or Poisson distribution. So what does Poisson distribution say? It says it's mostly related with the number of occurrences. Let us say you are standing at some bus stop. You are waiting for a bus. So you want to know if you wait for 1 hour, will you get the bus or not? For this, you have to need some information like what is the expected value of bus? How many buses pass in 1 hour? So let me explain again. The Poisson's distribution mainly deals with when you have an expected value and the events are very random. So you can say what's going to happen in certain interval. Is it going to happen or not happen? So what do I mean? For example, if you stand here and you know you're in a bus stop, let us say it's an let's use the flights because the buses don't travel at night times. So let's say you are in an airport. It makes no sense to stand in an airport and get in a flight because you don't randomly go into any flight, right? Okay. Let us say we are in a specialized and modern city where the buses travel 24 hours around the clock and they are randomly distributed. So they don't have any pattern. They randomly move around. So you went on some random hour and you are standing for 1 hour and you want to know how many buses pass in that. So let us say there are 5 buses passing per hour. 5 buses pass every hour from this bus stop. And this city is random. So you don't have to worry about this. So if you go and stand in this bus stop and you waited for 1 hour, my question is, how many buses did it pass? What's the probability that you saw 0 buses? What's the probability that you saw 1 bus passing, 2 buses passing, 3 buses, 4 buses, 5 buses, 6 buses, 7 buses, or 10 buses? So the question is, it is possible, like we are saying they randomly pass. So we can't exactly guarantee that every 1 hour exactly 5 buses are passing. We can't guarantee that because they're random. So there may be like 10 buses passing in the or you are there. But what's the probability that happens? So that question is answered through this Poisson's distribution. So again, for this, let's construct using this. Distribution. For this, the information what you need is okay. Just the mean value, right? The mean value. The mean value. Let us say 10. There are 10 buses passing, and you are standing at the bus stop, and you want to see how many buses are passing for this hour, and you can start from 0. You can't go negative because it starts from 0, and there is any possibilities from 1. I said 13, but it is possible like even 25 buses can go, right? So let us go down. Then it is possible 30 buses go in this moment you are standing there. And this will give as the probability mass function. Let's see Poisson's distribution. For it needs the x, which is this one, and the mean is here. Let me lock this loop at this point, and then cumulative or not. I want the mass function, so I'll say false. So the probability of going 0 buses is very, very less. But let me copy until 25. So the probability of passing exactly 10 buses, so we know every 1 hour 10 buses are passing in an average. But the hour that you are standing there and exactly 10 buses are passing is through this one. 0.12 means 12.5% of the chance. And let me draw the cumulative distribution function, which is the same formula in Excel, but instead of false, we put it true. You see this, you expect it to get to 1, but it's not 1 because there are possible of more. Mathematically speaking, up to infinite. There can be infinite number of buses passing, but with very, very, very little probability, right? So this number, we can go very down and still it shows 1 here because rounding effect, but mathematically it's not 1, it's very, very less number. You see there are still 10 to the power of minus 10. It's very small number, but still there is a probability. There are 35 buses passing. So this is a distribution I like to see because it's not like starting and ending, it's continuously moving. Oh, let me draw this. Again, I don't want to draw the line because I don't want to make this understanding in my brain. So I want to use this. So for me, it makes no sense between 0 and 1 or 2 and 3. So it makes only sense when we have 2 or 3 or 4, if was passed or didn't pass. So if you see, he said the mean is 10, right? I said the mean is 10. So we usually expect a lot of buses pass when the 10 number of buses pass in that hour, but there is also probability that other buses pass. This is the probability distribution for the persons. You can see when the mean is getting very close to 0, you can see it is kind of having a tail on the other side. We can use the word called skewing. It skews. Let us say like 3. When the probability is 3, you see this side it rises quick and falls slowly. It's skewed towards the right. If you say 1, it rises quick but falls slowly. Okay, so that's a Poisson's distribution. And how do the cumulative frequency looks? So you can just plot this. Let me use this. This is cumulative frequency, cumulative distribution function. Let me put in this side. You don't have to see the data. Okay, if the mean changes, let us see it how it works. Before we started with the 10, right? So it kind of looks like an S. Okay, so we already know it starts with 0, ends with 1. Okay, now let us go to the next problem. Okay, we have an example here. Let us see an example. So we are expecting 5 meteors per hour on an average. What is the probability that we see at least 2 meteors in any 1 hour? So it says for every 1 hour, 5 I don't know how to call this meteors pronouncing. Let me call it comets. There are 5 comets falling. So if we say there are 5 comets falling every 1 hour, so what's the probability that you are sitting there for 1 hour and there are at least 2 you are seeing, at least 2. At least 2 or what is it? See, at least 2, right? 2 or more. So the question is 2 or more, not 2 or less, 2 or more. So it's not cumulative distribution function. We don't want this. So the question is a little different and a little tricky. Let us see. The mean is 5. So if the mean is 5, this is a probability mass function, right? So what does this say? The 2. What does this say? 2 says the exactly 2. When it says you are seeing exactly 2 comments. Okay, my question is 2 or more. So I want to add this and all the remaining. We know it is infinite. It never stops. You can't just add this. So what we can do is we can't go this way. We have to go the other way. What is the other way? So let me write it here. So the question is probability that at least 6. So it means at least 2 greater than or equals to 2. Probability that number of meteorites you see, number of comets you see is greater than or equals to 2, which is equals to, let us say, which is equals to 1 minus probability of, you see, x less than 1. Less than or equals to 1. Why do I say this? This is important to understand because if from this distribution, this distribution is not something closed, it's continuously growing, right? So you don't want to take it. So we don't want to go compute the other side. So we want to compute the towards 0 because we already know it starts from 0. So if they are asking, tell me what is the sum of all this, which we can't find exactly. So what we can do is we can add these two and we know exactly what it is. And we know the sum of the whole probability is equals to 1. The whole sum is 1. So if you know exact value for these two, so what is the sum of all this is 1 minus this part. So what is this part, which is here? It says, let me do here instead of going to the other page. The sum is this one plus 0.04. Let me use a rounding here. So it is says 1 minus, sorry, it is equals to 1 minus 0.04. 0.04. Okay. So which is equals to 1 minus this number, right? So 0.9595. So 0.9595. So there is a probability of 95.95% of the times you see a meteorite 2 or less than 2 meteorites. So let us do through this. Let's sum all these things, and we see here 0.9595, which is correct. These values are very small in this case, so can do. So that's the example. So now let's understand the probability density function. It is very, very important. It's most important thing to understand for today's class. What is probability density function? So until now we saw probability mass function, but once we go to the continuous variables, we can't use the probability mass function. We have to use probability density function. So what's the difference? So for example, if I ask, what is the probability that you see exactly 2 comments, is you have some number, like you say this number, it's 8%. So what's the probability that you see no comments, which is 0, which is 0.6%. So now I ask you a question. What is the probability that you throw a grain of a sand inside your room and it falls exactly at the center of the room? What's the probability? So we have, let's say this is your room. You have a grain of sand in your hand and you throw it randomly. You just throw it somewhere. You have a closed room, you can throw. We know it falls inside this room. So my question is, what is the probability that it falls exactly in the center? What's the probability? Can someone guess what can be the answer? So can someone guess and tell me what can be the answer? Don't have to be correct. You can guesswork. Okay, let me conduct a poll and see what is your answer. The probability of sand falling exactly at the center of the room. What do you think is the answer? 0, 0.1, 0.1. Keep guessing, it's not something mathematical. You can just imagine and tell whatever you think is the right answer. Okay, so 4 of us has answered. Okay, let me explain what it is. The probability is, if you want to measure in the classic way, so let us see, let me share my screen. If you see in the classic way, so how many points we have, how do we measure the probability of how many possibilities we have divided by the total number of sample size, like we do that, right? For example, if you have flip a coin, we want heads or tails. If we select heads, head is 1, and then what are the total possible outcomes? 2, so we say it's 0.5. This 2 represents the total possible values. Here in this room, what is the total possible values? Which is infinite, because if you select any 2 points, there is a point in between these 2 points. If you select these 2 points, there is one point in between. So it's a continuously distributed. So I'm using the word sand grain, grain of a sand, because it's very tiny, which you can relate it to a point which is kind of doesn't have any dimensions. So if you want to put a point in a big plane, the probability is 0, because you have infinite chance. You can put anywhere, it's infinite, so probability is 0. So we can't just talk in terms of probability. We can never talk probability in for a given point in a continuous. So what we can say is, we give the density, and every time you ask a question, you ask a question something to the region. You can't just ask question to the point. What is the probability that it falls in this region? So you can say this region can be a smaller square. So let me put another small square here. Let me put a small square here. So let us say your house is 2 meters divided by 2 meters. So this is 2 meters. So this is 2 meters divided by 2. I mean 2 times 2, which is 4 square meters. And say this little square is 0.5, 0.5. So 0.5 times 0.5 is how much? Let me see. 0.5 times 0.5, which is 0.25. So the probability now is 0.25 divided by 4. So this is the probability that the sand grain can fall in this square. So you can just tell the region, you can't tell the point. So next, whenever you talk in continuous, we just talk about regions. We don't talk about points. That's the most important thing we have to understand. When we have the random variable discrete, we talk about points, 2, 3, 4. But when we go to the continuous, we don't talk about points. We talk about intervals. So what's the probability that someone's height is between 2 and 3? We don't say exactly 2. It's not possible. It's impossible to get exact 2. You have between 2 and 3, right? Okay. So I heard some sound. Is it a question? So in continuous probability due to infinite, it's always 0. So in continuous probabilities, the point is always 0. The probability of getting exactly point is 0. But in intervals, we always have some value. So that's why we don't talk about probability mass functions. We say probability density function, and we use PDF, right? Yeah, you're right. So let us see what we have. Uniform distribution. You're welcome. So uniform distribution. So uniform distribution we already saw in discrete. In continuous, I give you like an homework to see how you can use this. You already have a homework. I mean, you can do it by your enthusiasm. You can look into it. It's very easy. So I want you to look into it and you find it yourself. And then we see exponential distribution. So exponential distribution, we have the Excel, what we call the Excel function to generate the exponential one. Let me see this exponential graph. So this is a distribution probability density function, probability density function, and this is cumulative distribution function. So here I'm using this because I have to explain you something. Like if you see this, the probability distribution function, it is, most of the people think it's similar to the probability mass function, but there is a little difference. What's the difference? You see the value, it can go more than 1. You see, this is a probability distribution function. It goes more than 1 because we are not talking about a point. We are not talking about what's the probability. It's 0. This doesn't say it is 0. This says something else. When we take area under this, which gives the probability, it never takes any point. If you take any point in this and say this is the probability of getting 0.5 is, let's say here 0.5 is 0.5. No, it doesn't say there's a 50% chance. It is density function. It is dense there. Means there is more probability, but it's not saying 0.5 is the probability. The probability you get by calculating the area there. So we do this in the next classes, but what we have to understand here is probability density function is different from the probability mass function. Here these values doesn't represent the probability. For example, if it says 4, we already know the value of probability is between 0 and 1. But why is this 4? Because when you take the area, we have to multiply this 4 times 0, or if we take some interval for the area, right? So I will explain all these things in the next coming classes, but what we have to understand is probability density function, the y-axis doesn't represent the probability. It represents how dense it is. It is much dense compared to other places. But the cumulative distribution function, it again gives the probability. So what do I mean? So let us see here. Let me draw this. So this gives the probability. It starts with 0 and it equalizes. What is this? How do this CDF is calculated? Cumulative distribution function is calculated is by adding all the area. By adding all the area. If you know integration and derivations, I mean the calculus, this is integration of this graph. So the CDF is integration of PDF. So what does it gives is all the area until this point. For example, if you want to say 0.5, what is the 0.5? The CDF is area of all this until this point. So you take all this area and you calculate it, and this comes here. So we no more do the point-wise calculations. We do the region. We calculate the region. That gives us the probability, right? Okay. So let us see. That's the exponential distribution. Again, I'm saying this. We are not going in deep into each distribution. What we want to know is how do different graphs looks, and what do we understand from that. Okay. Now let us see the big one called normal distribution. In the future videos or in the future sessions, most of our distributions, or we can say almost all the distributions, are normal distribution. And this is the function. This is a probability distribution function, or probability density function. So it needs two information. One is the mean, which is mu, and another is the standard deviation. So if you know all these two, so we can construct the normal distribution. So let us see how it looks. I have here an example. Okay. So use f of x and f capital of x. But here let me write PDF, probability distribution function, and CDF for cumulative distribution function. So I said mean is 5 and variance is 2. So here is the mean. The mean is exactly in the middle. The variance is we will see what does it means. But with these two information, using the Excel formula, I can plot it, and it looks like this bell shape. And the cumulative distribution function looks like a S shape. This is the most important probability distribution for our subject. So in the future classes, we deal more with this, and we try to understand more in detail, and we try to make more sense out of this, and we use this a lot. Okay, again, if you see here, when it is 5, it shows 0.28. You can see from here. It doesn't mean the probability. It means it's more dense there. And what's the probability that you get 5 or less is 0.5. So how do we get this? This is by adding all this, but not adding manually. It's adding through integration, or we can say taking the area. Okay. So this is the normal distribution. It looks like that. And also there is another called standardization. What is standardization? So if we take the mean is 0 and the variance is 1, the curve which looks, we call it the standardization. Let me start from -5 to 5. So the mean is 0, the variance is 1. So this is called a standard normal distribution. So why do we need this? Because when we do calculations, we want to find, for example, let us say you want to find the probability of happening 5 or less, but you can't have this information when you don't have computer. I mean, if you have computer, you can do it, but the olden days, or when we are not having computers, what we used to do is we had a chart. This is called Z chart. Z table. In the Z table, it gives all the values. If you know the logarithmic table, it's something related to that, something like that. They generate a table and we can calculate it. For example, you want to know what is the probability density function for 0. So you see from this table, you see 0 and you get this. For here, it is a cumulative one. This is a complete region. For example, if you see, this is a normal distribution, and all the region which is highlighted is the one it's showing here. For example, you want to see what is 0, right? For example, 0.0, it is 0.5. So we know it is 0.5 from Excel. But if you don't have computer and if you want to use this table, you have only one table. You can't get thousands of tables for each time the data is changing. So what you do is we do standardization. So whatever problem you have, you convert the problem into standardization. How do we do that? Is changing our variable X to variable Z. So the new variable we have, standardized variable is Z. And using the Z, we have the Z table, and we can use the Z table to calculate the probabilities. So this is a technique we use. So we can continue to do this because it makes us easier for different values. We can't say it will be like more useful when you use a lot of this. It will be more useful for you to relate it and make comparison from one data to other data and all these things. It makes more sense using Z data. So we see all these things more in detail in the future classes. So this is all for today. This will continue in the next class from this point, the normal distribution, and also what is probability density function more in detail, and we try to understand a little bit more, right? Okay. So this is all for today. If you have any questions, you can ask me. And regarding the question asked by Rene, I have another class now. We can meet after 12 o'clock if you are free.
Yeah, doctor. But you just tell me at what hour, please.
Okay. Let me send you a message. Why don't you send me one email? I will try
Okay.
to reply when I have time.
Yeah.
I will inform you the time. All right.
Okay, I send you the email and then you answer me and with
Yeah.
the link, right?
Yeah, and also I recommend if you have time, for example, Tanya already had some information. Maybe if you can help other students, your classmates, if you can have a group discussion, you know what I mean? You can discuss among yourselves. I don't have to be present. You can discuss and you can see if you can solve by yourselves, or else I will be available. Yeah.
Okay, sure. I send you
Sure.
the email. Thanks.
Yeah, listen. Yeah, thank you. If you have any other questions, please tell me. Yeah, thank you. Same to you. Have a nice weekend. Okay, students. So let's see another class. See you. Have a nice weekend. Take care.